Good evening and welcome to the first ever episode of the Stadium Ranters. I am Wayne Gregoire. I am a featured writer and editor at Stadium Rant, and I will be your host today. Before we get into the rules and how the scoring system works, I'll let our guest panelists go through and introduce themselves, starting with Tyler Lamb.
What's up, guys? I'm Tyler, owner, CEO of Stadium Rant. I'm super excited to be here. I actually just released an article 1 minute ago at 7 o'clock. It's about the Patriots and the real issues behind their coaching staff and front office. Go check it out at stadiumrant.com. You could follow me at Lamb4752 or at Stadium Rant HQ. Really glad to be here.
Ashton?
Hey, I'm Ashton. I write for Gridiron Heroics. I just published an article this week about how Nick Westbrook-Akine has gone from fan hated to fan loved by the Tennessee Titans. So feel free to check out my content there or visit my Twitter at Ashton Kennedy GH.
AJ.
Hello, everybody. My name is the Brofict One, AJ. You can find me dang near every single day live on Rumble. We talk everything sports, all the big four, and soccer when it's the World Cup. That's the only time we like soccer. But find us there on Rumble, also at Brofict One on Twitter. Thank you guys so much for the invite. Beyond excited to be here today.
Awesome. So excited to have everybody on here today. The way the game works is I have 5 questions. I'm going to ask a question, and each member on the panel is going to get 60 seconds to give their answer to the question. And then we'll go back around, and we have 30 seconds in case you want to dispute something that somebody else said. At the end of each round, I have 3 points that I can award. I could give them all to one person. I can give 1 to each person depending on how you guys debate. If you hear this noise, that means that time is up. Wrap up the question. So without further ado, let's dive into our first topic of the evening. Colorado was poised to make the playoff, but they did not because they lost to Kansas. They're out. They're ranked 23rd, 24th. There's no way they're getting into the playoff now. So I'm actually going to put you guys in charge of the college football playoff. Nobody can second guess you. You have the final say. The question is, starting with Tyler, are you putting Colorado in the playoff? Why or why not? And give your reasoning. You have 60 seconds.
I'll start off here. I really want to give it to Coach Prime. I know a lot of people give him crap for how he acts and how he kind of does things differently, but he's taken a 1-win team and he's built a pretty decent program around them. And I'm still going to say no, they don't belong in the playoff. That loss to Nebraska was too damning to their season. You get blown out by a team that inevitably isn't very good. They're just okay. And then they lose close games against Kansas and Kansas State. You just got to be a little bit better than that for me to get into this playoff. Even though there's 12 teams, to me, it's very special. It should be the best teams in there, and I just don't think Colorado has reached that point this season. It stinks because it's probably the last run Shador and this crew has, but I do believe in what he's building there. If they got to the conference championship, I would have had a lot better chance of putting them in, but right now, no.
All right. Fantastic. Ashton, you are on the clock.
I don't think there's any real chance that I would put Colorado in the playoffs as they stand currently. I mean, you can make the argument that they have, a top 12 talented team in the country. You've got 2 players that are more than likely going to be drafted top 5 in the NFL draft next year. But, on the field, they haven't played a single team that's going to end the season in the college football playoff rankings. So if you're going to lose 3 games against talent that can't even make the top 25, I don't think that's going to give you anywhere near the resume required to be in the playoffs. Coach Prime has done an excellent job in 2 years, going from 1-11 to 9-3 now. That's, an incredible coaching job, but obviously it's not enough against the competition that he's facing.
Yeah, sure. Obviously they had, a couple of losses. That third loss is what killed them because they still had a sliver of a chance, didn't quite get in. So, AJ, now it's on you. 2 guys say no, they're not going to put him in. Nobody can stop you from doing it if you want to. How do you feel about putting him in?
Listen, even if I wasn't talking to a bunch of intelligent people who seem to actually know college football, I wouldn't put them in, even if it's a gun to my head. Even with this loss to Kansas, you take that away, they're not the CFP, the way they've been going about it. They're not going to put them in above an Alabama, Miami, Ole Miss. And so they're running into that issue, even though it's Coach Prime. And yes, you do have two Heisman contenders, technically speaking, and a guy who can play both ways, but he's only top 10 both ways, and he's not number one either way. So that's an issue for me as well. Again, shout out to Coach Prime for the incredible work that he has done in Colorado, and I really hope that we continue to see it grow throughout the next couple of years. Will that happen, or if he gets an SEC job, that's a whole other question. I also just love that KU decided, like, we're going to just ruin our season in the beginning, and then we're going to ruin other seasons at the back half. That is freaking awesome. Rock Chalk Jayhawks. Hope they have a better basketball season, but no, absolutely not. Colorado doesn't deserve to be in this year.
All right. Well, we got three people who all agree with each other, so there's probably not going to be much of a debate going forward, but I'll still bring it around the horn. Tyler, any final thoughts on the topic?
No, I really love the Kansas thought there. That they're just gonna suck in the beginning of the season, and then they're just gonna play Dream Killer late, because they've been like, if they had a decent beginning of the season, they would be in the conversation, man.
Absolutely.
They played excellent football down the stretch, and they beat 3 ranked teams in a row as an underdog. That you're just playing really, really good football right now. It's unfortunate that they didn't kind of play cleaner like we thought they would in the beginning of the season, because they have a lot of really good players on this team.
Yeah, I think they're the first unranked team ever to win 3 straight games against ranked opponents.
That is crazy, dude. You
My last
saw it
thought,
coming.
Genty.
Everybody saw it coming. Everybody
Mhm.
was everybody picked Kansas in those games too, and they're like, "Oh, they're not going to do it," and then they just did. So it's cool.
All right. Well, again, like I said, we had 3 people agree. Everybody made good points. I'm giving 1 point to everybody to start things off. So we do have a tie going into the second question of the day. And the second question is also somewhat about college football, but also about the draft. And that is about running back Ashton Jeanty of Boise State. Oops, wrong video I got here playing.
Wrong clip.
Here
It's
we go.
okay. First episode.
Ashton Jeanty of the top is he going to be a top 15 pick? Most likely. I don't believe you should draft a running back in the first round, no matter how good they are. If it's Barry Sanders, Bo Jackson, I don't care. The value of a running back is the same as punter to me. However, GMs will draft running backs. So I'm going to ask you guys, and we'll start with Ashton this time. Ashton, would you think that or can you make a case for why a GM should take him in the top 15?
Absolutely. I, without question, think that he's worthy of going inside the top 15. I mean, you look just 2 years ago, Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs both go inside the top 15, and both have, definitely increased the production on their team. Jahmyr Gibbs looks like, an absolute steal, Sonic and Knuckles. But I think what's also important to look at is Ashton Jeanty, just after contact this season, would be the highest rated rusher in college football. So that's not a skill that you can take away just by putting him in the NFL. He's kind of like a Derrick Henry without the size. He's a big play, but not because he's making guys miss like Saquon Barkley every play. He's going through contact and still getting those, huge rush gains.
All right. Well, let me ask you, AJ, you're up next. Are you also talking to GMs and telling them they should be taking this guy with a top 15 pick?
Well, if the draft was to start today and the top 10, top 15 are where they're at, there are a couple of teams I'd be talking about getting a running back with that caliber. Jacksonville comes to mind. New England comes to mind. Carolina comes to mind. The Jets come to mind. Even the Browns with Deshaun Watson right now. So, yeah, there are teams that would be talking about it. Do I recommend it as a good move for your future? Probably not, because it is a running back, considering the fact that over the last 3 seasons, Jeanty has carried it 688 times for 4,456 yards. That is called mileage, brother. That is mileage on a running back, and that's why you don't see a lot. With that being said, the way the NFL is going right now, the way that these GMs are thinking, they need playmakers, and they need playmakers now. So absolutely, Jeanty is not only going to be a top 15, he's going to be a top 10 pick when it comes draft time. And if he's not a top 10, he won't drop out of that top 15. If he does, any team down there, I don't think he gets out of the first round, and that's my big thing. Also, give this man his Heisman now.
Good finish.
Thank you.
Tyler, your thoughts on Ashton Jeanty as a top 15?
Okay, cool. I'm going to name off the last running backs drafted in the first round alone since 2014. Okay. After that, I'm going to say which ones I believe are a bust. And if they're a bust, I don't think that's a good pick. If they're not, I think it's an okay pick. So, Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon, Zeke, Leonard Fournette, CMC, Saquon Barkley, Rashard Penny, Sony Michel, Josh Jacobs, CEH, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Bijan, Jameer Gibbs. Out of that group of running backs, I would put bust status on CEH. I'd put bust status on Rashard Penny for injury purposes. And I'd put bust status on possibly Travis Etienne if he continues to look like how he has this year. Now, all these other players have been really, really good players, almost top of position players at points in time during their careers. So I think that, yes, I'd take Ashton Genty. He's worth it based on his prospect profile, and RBs are important on good teams. So if a good team can get this player, I think he'd be really, really good for him. See Saquon Barkley, see Derrick Henry. Sorry, I stumbled a little bit there. Ran over my time.
Oh, not a problem. So now we're going to go to the 30 seconds. And it seems like we all kind of agree again. So I'm going to throw this little nugget in there. I'll let Ashton start with this thought, which is obviously look at Christian McCaffrey. We know he was Offensive Player of the Year last year. Christian McCaffrey, how good were the Panthers with Christian McCaffrey? You look at Saquon Barkley's having an MVP season. How good were the Giants with Saquon Barkley? It's just not a position that helps your franchise at all until they go somewhere else. So he's going to help somebody else's franchise in 4 years when his rookie deal's up, but he's not going to help your franchise. That's my take on it. I'll let Ashton give his thoughts on that.
Personally, I still got to disagree. I mean, look at just Saquon, just one of the examples you gave. He earned Daniel Jones a $120 million contract by taking them to the playoffs with Brian Daboll in his first season. Another, kind of touching on the mileage that AJ talked on. AJ Henry, the whole reason, or Derrick Henry, the whole reason he slipped into the second round was everyone said he had too many miles on him at Alabama. But look at him now. He's 30 and 32 and still rushing, or second to the league in rushing.
AJ, thoughts on the running back?
It's very, like they said, it's good for good teams, but I think it's also very important for those rookie quarterbacks. You need to be able to have a run game so that the defense is on their toes and you can create that play action pass. And so I look at a Jacksonville with a Trevor Lawrence who hasn't really gone off the ground yet. I wouldn't hate that as a number one pick. Again, this was if the season was to end today, they'd be number one. I wouldn't hate that for them. I wouldn't hate that for Cleveland so that Deshaun Watson has actually something to do instead of going out and getting injured halfway through the season. Either way, there's teams that can benefit whether they have a good quarterback, bad quarterback. I think it helps you more than it hurts you.
And Tyler.
Word. To kind of fight back on your Saquon Barkley point, I mean, if the Giants were a good team when they drafted him, he damn sure would have helped them out. Okay, I don't think that it's the running back's fault that the team's not good around them. They could be a fantastic player, and the team could just not be good around them. Do I think bad teams should take running backs in the first round? No. Do I think good teams should think about it to make their team better? Yes, because clearly when you have a good running back on a good team, that impacts how you win. And you win in December, February, January with a run game. So, yeah.
All right. Well, some great arguments there. Obviously, I'm gonna go again with 1, 1, and 1. We're gonna let this thing go down to the wire and wait for somebody to give me something saucy. But we will get into the third topic of the show here, and the third topic is going to be the video I started showing before. Caleb Williams, first overall pick in the last draft. Caleb obviously is not playing the way that teams would have hoped, or the Bears would have hoped. Jaden Daniels is playing great. Bo Nix is playing great. Drake May is playing great. So the question I have for you, starting with AJ, is Caleb Williams the right pick? Was he the right pick, or did they make a mistake taking him at 1?
Now, let's get one thing straight. The Bears always do the wrong thing, okay? That's just the Chicago Bear way. That's Bears football. And no, I don't think, though, they picked the wrong here, because you look at Caleb Williams comparatively to Jaden Daniels and Drake May. Drake May was the most NFL ready. Jaden Daniels has the most athleticism, but Caleb Williams has the highest ceiling. And I think that's what they drafted him off of, just like the Colts drafting Anthony Richardson. Granted, Caleb Williams has a hell of a lot more snaps than Anthony Richardson. However, the Bears are handicapping themselves not by who they pick at quarterback, but because we continue to go through this cycle where we draft a rookie quarterback with a coach that we should have fired the year before. Then we're going to go ahead and fire the coach and get him another offensive coordinator, another new head coach. And then we're going to go through the same cycle again of sucking, not being good. It's the Bears circle of pain. That's what it is. I'm a Bears fan. I've lived it. I know it. And it's going to continue with Caleb Williams. I wish we still had Justin Fields. He would have been unbelievable this season, I truly believe. But long run, no. The Bears didn't make the wrong decision. Ownership is making the wrong decision, not selling the team.
Tyler.
Yeah, I don't think that they made the wrong decision. Daniels would have had to deal with Shane Waldron's awful offensive system and scheme, which made Caleb look like a bust for multiple weeks until he got fired. With Thomas Brown, he started to look like the quarterback that we've kind of thought about. I mean, over his last 2 starts, I know small sample size, but 30 and 20 completions, over 340 yards, then 250 yards, 5 touchdowns in that span, no interceptions. He's using his legs a little more. He's looking a little bit more comfortable. They're scoring more points. I know they're not winning these games right now, but he's starting to look like the player that he was supposed to be billed as. As soon as you're getting him away from this Matt Eberflus, Shane Waldron concoction that the Bears threw up on themselves, I really like Ryan Poles. That the whole coaching staff, that was a miss. The best thing he did was bring in Thomas Brown. He could fix this kid. I hope he's their head coach next year.
All right. Ashton, what are your thoughts? Did the Bears get it right?
I think there's 2 ways to look at this. If you knew as the coaching staff, if you know that you're going to be on the hot seat this year, I think taking Daniels is the safest play, purely because of his rushing ability and ability to essentially put the team on his back and make a difference. If you know that you're going to have a longer rope and you're going to have more of a time to build something special, I think that, Williams is absolutely the best quarterback to take. He's going to have elite potential. He just needs somebody who can put him there. My question is, why wouldn't you be more aggressive when you're trying in the offseason to get Cliff Kingsbury? Letting him go to the Washington Commanders and let him lead Daniels and take them into a potential playoff position has to just be awful for Bears fans, knowing that you could have had him to pair with Caleb Williams.
Well, that's a great point. I actually do want to bring that around when we get into our 30-second segment here with AJ, Tyler, and I'll bring it back to you as well, because you brought it up. If Caleb Williams goes 2, if he goes 3, does he have a better season for the Commanders? Does he have a better season for the Patriots than he is right now for the Bears?
He goes through the same situation every quarterback has gone through with Cliff Kingsbury since the dawn of time, and that is having a great opening half of the season and then a terrible second half of the season. How do I know that? Because I live in Arizona. I follow the Arizona Cardinals. Shout out to him for literally ruining our team. Cliff Kingsbury should never be a head coach again. He is a great offensive coordinator in the first half of the season, and he's fallen back. Now, has Jaden Daniels gotten him out of some of those situations? Yes. Do I think Caleb Williams would have? Yes. So, yeah, it's all situational based. Situations are situational.
Tyler.
I definitely agree. I just think that everybody was talking about how perfect this situation for Caleb Williams was in the offseason. I was one of them. I did say, though, one major issue was Shane Waldron. I don't know why I keep trying to call him Shane Steichen. He couldn't figure out how to use DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and JSN in the same offense, and he just refused to run 3 wide receiver sets and change his offense. So I was concerned having DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, where this dude wasn't going to be able to maximize them. And throughout most of his season, he was throwing the ball to Bayless Jones Jr. or stuff like that. He was doing weird things that you should just cut out when you have players like that. You don't need to spread the ball that much. Keep your tree small and organized.
Ashton, what are your final thoughts on how Caleb might have performed on a different team?
I think that if he had gone number 2 overall to the Commanders, he would have at least had a much higher floor than he has had this season. At the very least, I mean, DJ Moore is a great player, but T-Mac is a beast. At any play, you can just throw it up to T-Mac, and it's going to get you something. You're either going to get a penalty or you're going to get a touchdown. So, at least going to the Commanders, he could have had a safety blanket that isn't quite as available with the Bears. I mean, DJ Moore is a great playmaker, but down the field, it's a lot less noticeable than T-Mac.
All right. Fantastic. Well, on this one here, actually, in this round, I wanted to give 2 points to Ashton on this one and 1 point to AJ. Sorry, Tyler, no points this round for that particular question. But
because I said Shane Steichen 2 times, huh? That's why.
that's penalized.
Get your OCs right, bro.
Let's get into our fourth topic. We're going to switch sports here a little bit, and we're going to talk about Major League Baseball. We saw that the Dodgers gave Shohei Ohtani almost $800 million. This year they gave Blake Snell a bunch of money. It's mostly deferred, but the point is that this is a team that just won the World Series, and now they're spending again as if they've got infinite money, which apparently they do. So the question I have to ask you guys, and we'll start back with Tyler again, should Major League Baseball, is it time for them to implement a salary cap and a salary floor to kind of spread that talent around rather than letting 4 teams sign all the players?
So I will say no to the salary cap. I would say yes to the salary floor. What I think that they should do is model what the NBA is doing. Like they have these tiers in this bracket situation. When you enter a certain threshold, then your roster moves start becoming limited. Yes, you have to pay the extra money on once you reach that tax, but you also you can't add multiple player salaries and trade them to another player or to another team for one player. You can only sign one veteran minimum contract. When you go up to the next tier, the next apron, you can't even do that. So, like in baseball, I would say that the floor should be $175 million. These teams should be spending. Some teams spend, over half the league spends slightly less than that. Some of them a lot less than that. And if all of these teams were forced to get up to that 175, there'd be a lot more disparity in talent. I also think that hitting these aprons in this luxury tax, if you like take out deferrals, like once you reach a certain number on your payroll, you can't defer any more money till like 2057. Like there has to be some way to like stop these teams from creating all these loopholes, and introducing that into a luxury tax system with aprons would do that.
Ashton, your thoughts on a cap and a floor?
I also do not think that a cap is needed. I kind of agree with Tyler about adopting some things from the NBA, but what I think I would rather see is the supermax and the max contracts that the NBA has, where a hometown team can offer more, so a player is more financially driven to stay with a team that built them up and brought them up from the draft. One of the big reasons why I don't think we need a salary cap is, out of the last 10 World Series winners, 3 of them have not been in the top 10 in payroll spending for the year. Teams like the Braves and the Royals, they can build from the ground and show that you can compete without just spending, immense amount of money. Does money buy you potentially playoff appearances? Absolutely. But it doesn't guarantee you World Series victories.
Fair enough. And AJ, your thoughts on the cap and the floor?
Yeah, we need a salary cap. We needed a salary cap yesterday. We needed a salary cap the year before. We needed a salary cap the year before that. Because if you start getting into the NBA luxury tax and anything, these MLB owners are so freaking rich. I mean, again, we're guaranteeing $500 million to some of these players, and they won't give a shit about a luxury tax. They won't give a shit. They'll just continue to spend money and defer money, and they'll keep getting it out there. I think that it would make the game a hell of a lot more competitive, because at the end of the day, whether the guy's a good pitcher or not, you still got to pay him. And so it's whether they're going to go out there and perform. In baseball, again, you just go out there and you strike out 7 times, but you hit 3 dingers, you're probably going into the Hall of Fame. And that's just kind of how baseball works. And so I think it would be a lot more cost effective for the owners, a lot more interesting, and a lot more parity in this league if we did have a full-on salary cap. And granted, I don't think it should be like the NFL, like the NBA. I think it should be their own thing, because yes, these guys do make an exorbitant amount of money to play baseball, but let's go ahead and put a cap on that so that we're not offering Shohei Ohtani $1 billion over 75 years. Come on.
And bringing it back to Tyler, kind of touching on this subject, obviously we've got the salary cap now. We talked about it. Salary caps do have parity. They create parity. There's definitely a lack of parity in Major League Baseball. So my question would be, Major League Baseball has a ratings issue. They're talking about this whole golden bat thing, right? Is the lack of parity the reason for the ratings? If we had more parity, would we have better ratings?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because some of these small market teams would get some of their own viewership back, because they're able, like, if the Oakland A's were spending $175 million on their payroll, every single year instead of $80 million on their payroll, they might still be in Oakland rather than going to Las Vegas. Like, it's that sort of thing. Like, your fan base, my fan base, I'm in Boston. I have seen how ownership has not wanted to spend since the Mookie Betts trade. It has pissed me off, and I have not wanted to watch the Red Sox since then. Now they're in on Juan Soto. They get the player. I forgive them. It's this thing. Like, I don't think a cap is necessary because I do think big markets should have an advantage. But having a floor and having not being able to penalize roster moves rather than money once you get into that luxury tax, I think that's a really, really smart idea that the NBA did and the MLB should adopt.
Asher, your thoughts?
I think my main issue with the salary cap is, with the NFL, we have seen teams can just say no. Look at the Saints. We're essentially deferring money just like the MLB, with different ways, with roster bonuses and signing bonuses and all of these other ways to get around actual salary cap hits. So I don't think a salary cap truly fixes any of the actual issues that at least the Dodgers specifically are bringing forward.
AJ.
And yeah, you're right. With the Saints especially, they're in cap hell and they're going to be in cap hell for the next 10, 15, 25 years probably. But you got to be smart to do that. And I think that's part of the issue is that there's not a lot of brains going on in the MLB right now if we're talking about bringing in a golden bat rule. That is the dumbest thing I've heard since the robo-umps. And I hate the idea of the robo-umps. But regardless, you have to have some brains. You got to have some movement. And again, I'm all about parity. I'm all about bringing it back. My D-backs made the World Series last year with a bad salary and everything. You can't build from young, but it helps to have that cash.
Can I make one more quick point on the salary cap before we move on?
Go for it.
If this
Well, not anymore.
you could magically move $70 million. If you could be $70 million over the cap one day and then change a couple of contracts and the next day you're like 20 million under the cap. The cap doesn't exist. That's not real. Like, those aren't real numbers. Like, you're crazy if you think like teams are actually adherent to that. It actually works in the NBA. You're seeing it. Like, teams like literally can't make roster moves. They just installed it, but there's a lot better teams. A lot, like, I would say outside the Celtics and the Cavs, everybody else is pretty close.
Dog shit. They're actually dog shit. I'm sorry. It's the Celtics finals to lose at this point, and we're not even a full quarter of the way through the season.
Trust me, I'm aware. My team's way better than yours, but
I know
it's okay because next year they're not going to be able to do anything with their roster. Like, they just implemented this as it continues to grow, and as these teams hit this hard cap, this apron, they're not going to be able to make actual roster moves, and they're going to need to move some money around and move players, and that will create the disparity that we're talking about.
I think we'll see the same thing with the NFL and the NBA. I'm sorry, last thought.
I mean, we've also seen the Bucks win a championship recently. Like,
fair.
So on this round here, I did give 2 points to AJ and 1 to Tyler. On this particular round. And even though AJ disagreed with me, because I just wrote an article, you guys can check it out, called The Golden Bat is an Amazing Idea.
I read that. So it was a great article. Go give it a read. But
all right, let's get into the final category of the evening, and that is going to be about the NBA. And we're comparing the WNBA to the NBA because Juju Watkins might be the best female basketball player in college, but she can't turn pro for another couple of years because they have a rule that you have to be at least 22 to enter the draft. On the flip side, Cooper Flagg is going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. He's 18 years old. So my question is, we're seeing these NBA teams, like you said, it's a bunch of crap. It's Celtics, it's a couple of teams, and it's crap. And a lot of that has to do with these kids coming into the NBA who are teenagers. They aren't ready to play in the NBA yet. Should the NBA adopt a WNBA type rule, or at least an NFL type rule? And who goes right? Ashton, you're first on this one.
Personally, I don't think that the NBA needs to add a draft age to their draft rule sets. Players like LeBron and Kobe obviously prove that you can come in at 18 and be completely ready to play. Victor Wembanyama looks, pretty good for the Spurs despite his age. I think the NIL deal in college basketball is going to slowly move us away from having these really young players come in that aren't ready to compete. They can still just play college. They can play basketball in college, still make enough money to, provide for their families, have generational wealth still coming their way, but not, go to the NBA and be stuck in the G League for 2 to 3 years. The NIL, I think, is going to be right now. Obviously, yes, it's a problem, but the NIL will slowly but surely weed all of these unproven, unready talents and let them stay in basketball and just transfer around a few years, go to different teams, make a few Final Four appearances, and then actually make the NBA.
All right. AJ?
See, and you asked me this question 3 years ago. No, they should keep it the same because I think I think college football should let running backs come out at 22, 21. I think they should be able to stay a year or two. Don't put as many miles on them and let them get to the league and make some money. Same thing with the NBA and WNBA. You're dealing with a lot of tall people, a lot of people cutting knee issues, this, that, the other. They got a small window to make that money in the NBA, besides LeBron, which is a freak. Bronny James ain't going to make it that long. I'm going to tell you that right now. But no, in fact, I think we're going to see the WNBA actually go to the NBA rules because they're looking for that star power. No disrespect. I don't want to get into the argument, but Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are really all they have right now. And that's getting people in the buildings. The play is keeping them in the buildings. But no, I think their rules are good. Cooper Flagg absolutely deserves to come out. And those guys that don't deserve to come out, they're in college for a reason, and they'll make that NIL money. And those ones that do come out and bust, I mean, they were going to bust in college anyway. And so you might as well roll the dice and make the money while you can.
Tyler?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you why the NBA or the WNBA has this rule first. Then I'll go into why I don't think the NBA should adopt it. The WNBA has this rule. I think it's to help the NCAA in women's college basketball because these stars don't come along as much as they do in men's college basketball, I would say. Like, they want to hold on to those stars as long as they can in the NCAA before they go to the WNBA. So I think that's kind of something that they do together. And then I would say absolutely not. I don't think the NBA should adopt this rule. Like you said, LeBron, Kobe, Wembley, these dudes, if they're ready to come in and play, they're ready to come in and play. What I will say is if a kid could vote, a kid could drive, he could decide whether he gets to go to the league or college. But why wouldn't you want to go to college with this NIL money? Go be a king of a campus and just absolutely just enjoy your time. You really don't you're not you're stressed. Yeah. But you have a much better chance at succeeding and having a wonderful time there. So why stress? You're going to make money. Do it, grow, and then go to the NBA and be a dog there.
All right. Well, bringing it back to Ashton, I guess, my question would be, if keeping them in college, does that help them? Does it hurt them? Does it not matter at all? I see that in the next mock draft I've been seeing, we're seeing 14 underclassmen and foreign players who are teenagers coming into the NBA in the first 14 picks. So then before we see a sophomore being drafted. So I'm curious if, staying in college makes them a little bit better. Is that why we're seeing these rookies averaging 7-8 points a game instead of 20, like, Jordan did back in the day after 3 years of college?
I think it really just depends on the player. Players like Dalton Connect, they're going to need the extra years in college to, build that, go from an undervalued recruit to an actual powerhouse that can come in and provide on an actual NBA team night to night. Whereas, some players, they're going to come in and they're going to immediately be able to handle the ball, distribute in the NBA, and, play with the athleticism that the NBA provides. I don't think that – I think it really just varies versus, player to player.
AJ?
They say iron sharpens iron, but I like to think about it in video games. You can only get your iron up so much a level in one area in a video game. You got to move to another area to level that iron up. And that's kind of what college and the NBA is. Yes, you should absolutely have to go to college. I'm happy they stopped taking kids from high school, but at some point your iron can only be sharpened so much because at some point you're just going to be absolutely dominate in the league. And so then you got to take that next step. And that's the issue with some of those kids is they're too young to take that next step. At least they seem like it,
And Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, again, I really like Ashton's point about it. It's really about the player, man. I mean, you have dudes like Jason Tatum, you have dudes like Anthony Edwards coming into the league young, 1 year of college, then coming into the league and really playing well. Or you have a dude like Peyton Pritchard who takes a little while in the league to gestate into the player that he's supposed to become. And I agree with AJ too. Sometimes you're just too big of a fish swimming in a little pond. You got to make that jump, and then that jump is what sharpens you to be the player that you are. So yeah, it's a player by player case. It has to be, unfortunately.
All right, Perfect. Well, I gave everybody a point in this round, which means that our winner for the first ever Stadium Ranters is AJ. Congratulations on the championship for the first ever show.
Bring the belt.
Before we let you guys go, I'll go around the horn again, starting with Tyler, then Ashton, then AJ, where people can find you and so that people can interact with you.
Shane Sykin screwed me, man. Really upset about this. But no, you can find me at Stadium Rant HQ. You can find all of our work at stadiumrant.com. Really good job, AJ. All your points are great. Ashton, great job as well. Wayne, thank you for hosting, and really happy to be on the first episode. Can't wait to do more and come back and get the title back. We gotta do this group again so I can come and win. I don't like losing, if you guys couldn't tell.
Ashton?
You can find me at the Twitter, seen on the screen. That's mainly where I try to interact with people. Also, my articles are on Gridiron Heroics. I really appreciated the opportunity to be on here and interact. I don't get to do any sort of live stuff, so this is pretty awesome to be a part of.
And AJ.
Boys, everybody watching, it was so much fun to be on today. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And as your first champion ever, I promise to hold this title and treat it with respect, and it will not be taken away anytime soon. And that is a promise. That is a promise. But find me on Rumble at Brofict1. Degenerate takes on Rumble. And yeah, we got everything. So again, thank you everyone for having me on, and had a hell of a good time.
Absolutely. Thank everybody for tuning in and watching the show. Obviously, give us your thoughts on social media. Let us know what you think. And on behalf of Stadium Rant and the Stadium Ranters, I'm Wayne Gregg.